Good day, everyone. Good day, ma'am. We are the Group 4 and we are here to discuss to you about the Aetas or Agtas and the Bugkalots or Ilongots with their geographies, worldview, social organization, material cultures, and their history events as well as the issues that they are confronting nowadays. But first, let's start with their location, kung saan nga ba sila matatagpuan and usually makikita. So, I have here the map of Luzon and I mark out the yellow ones for the Aetas and Agtas and for the red ones for the Bugkalots or Ilongots. So makikita natin dito yung mga Agtas or Aetas is usually makikita natin sila sa Nueva Ecija, Tarlac, Zambales, Pampanga, and Bataan. And meron din sa may Western Visayas in Panay Island. In this whole island, they are actually scattered there. So madami sila dyan. And also for the Bugkalots or Ilongots, they are actually scattered from northern Sierra Madre to southern Sierra Madre. And also in Caraballo Mountains on part of the Nueva Vizcaya and Quirino. And also kung mapapansin nyo dyan, in between Quirino and Aurora, may mga bulong-bundukin din dyan. So matatagpuin din sila doon. So ang napansin ko lang is, why? Bakit malapit sa may shore? 'Di ba? The answer is, kaya sila malapit, kaya sila nakatira malapit sa shore or sa dagat is because nandun yung source of food nila, nandun yung source of living nila everyday. Nandun sila kumukuha ng pagkain nila, ng pangaraw-araw nila, and also the transportation sa mga balsa or bangka, mas napapabilis yung transportation nila dun. And that's all for their location. We will now go and proceed to the next reporter that will be discussing the geography of the Aetas and the Bugkalots.
Hi guys, I'm General Pataksil. I'm here to discuss the geography of Bugkalots. The Bugkalots are primarily in slash and burn agriculturalists, hunters and fishermen. They grow maize, manioc, rice, tobacco, sugar, and vegetables, and mulch their fields once a year. Fields cleared from virgin forest are used for 5 years and leaf fallow for 8 years. There is no formal leadership in Ilongot. Society informal leadership lies with sons and brothers who have oratorical skills and have acquired knowledge of might. The oratorical skills are known as Purin, which women reportedly cannot understand. The Ilongot have traditionally lived a semi-nomadism life. Ang Ilongot ay pangunahin sa slash at burner at mangingisda na agrikultura. Nagtatanim sila ng mais, bigas, tabako at gulay. At nililipat ang kanilang mga field minsan sa isang taon. At ang mga Ilongot ay walang formal na pamumuno. That's all for the geography of Ilongot. I will proceed to the next topic, the geography of Aetas. The Aetas is one of the most widespread ethnic groups in the Philippines. Their history and cultural contributes continues to perplex anthropologists and archaeologists. One story of their history is that they are the descendants of the original inhabitants of the Philippines, and because of that, may be the reason behind their wide population distribution. The consensus is that they crossed from the island of Bern using a land bridge partially covered by water. Whatever the migration path was, they are among the first, and not the first, inhabitants of the Philippines. They are traditionally hunter-gatherers and are among the most skilled in jungle survival. The Aetas are physically characterized to dark skin, finely curved hair, and short stature. They are located in isolated region along the foothills of Mount Pinatubo in the Zambales range in the province of Pampanga. Ang tribo ng Aeta ay isa sa pinakalaganap na pangkat etniko sa Pilipinas. Ang kanilang kasaysayan at mga contribution sa kultura ay patuloy na nakakagulo ng mga antropologo at archaeologists. That's all for the geography of Aetas. Thank you.
Good morning class, I'm Jesser Sikat and I will discuss to you the worldview of Aeta or Agta. They believe in supreme beings who rule over minor spirits. They believe that these spirits are the inhabitants of river, sky, mountain valleys, and other places. Some of their dances are performed to apologize for their catch and to inspire the future hunt. The Aeta are naturally skilled in weaving and planting, and they produce excellent winnowing baskets, rattan, hamrocks, and other household containers. Their traditional clothing adapts to their simple life. So, sinasabi dito is yung mga rivers, sky, mountains, and valleys are the supreme beings. They believe that these are the spirits. So, yun. So, yung traditional dance nila is performed to apologize. And, yun. Sumasayaw sila para humingi ng tawad sa mga siguro sa mga nagawa nilang kasalanan and to inspire future hunt. So inspire nila yung magiging susunod sa kanila. Siyempre kadalasan sa nakikita natin sa mga Aeta is mga matatanda na. So kailangang turuan yung mga susunod sa kanila, sa yapak nila. And yung mga Aeta is mga talented, like magaling sila bumuhay ng plant, magaling sila magtanim, and they produce excellent winnowing baskets. So magaling sila gumawa ng mga baskets. So mga nakikita naman natin sa internet is yung mga napoproduce nila mga basket, rattan, hamrocks, and other household containers. So mga gamit sa bahay. And also, yung pananamit nila is represent their as simple life. So yun. Symbolize ng pagiging simpleng pamumuhay. Yung damit nila. And then next, the Aetas of Zambales, also in Luzon, have a totally different set of wedding practices. In wedding ceremony, the couple eats from the same plate and they take turns feeding each other. Although monogamy is the rule in the Aetas culture, a man allowed to have more than one wife if he can accommodate enough bandi or bride price. This bride price may include arrows, bows, bolos or large knife, cloth, and money. And wedding day can only be fixed when the bride's family is paid the bride price. So this wedding practices, ang mga Aeta is yung mga bagong kasal na Aeta is kumakain sa same plate yun, and take turns feeding each other. So parang nagsusubuan sila. Yes, although monogamy is role in the Aetas culture. So dito sinasabi dito is we have a culture, meron silang culture na pwedeng mag-asawa ang isang lalaki ng more than one wife if he can accommodate enough. So kumbaga kung mayaman ka, pwede kang mag-asawa ng madami. And tinatawag dito is bride price or bandi. This pride includes arrows, bows, and bolos, large knife, and cloth and money. So dito nga, sinasabi dito is kailangan mo ma-supply ito ng arrows, bows, bolos, or large knife. So siguro need mong ibigay to sa magiging bride mo. And money, also money. The wedding date can be fixed when the bride's family is paid to the bride price. So, ang wedding day na yon is ma-fix lang if nabayaran mo na bride price. So, that's all. Thank you.
Good morning, ma'am. Good morning, classmates. I will discuss the worldview of Bugkalot, Ilongot. Bugkalot or Ilongot believes that there are gods of nature because the gods they believe in provide their food source, such as the land. Deity of the moon, worship with the sun and star. Congenial with elag during quarrel elag something cover the land face, causing the different phases of the moon, giver of life and growth, and elag deity of the sun, worship with the moon and star, has a magnificent house in the sky, real called Gakai, retreats to his home during night, giver of light and growth. Naniniwala ang Bugkalot na there are gods of nature. They worship it. Tapos pag sinabing deity of the moon, they worship sun and star. Kapag deity of the sun naman, they worship moon and star. Tapos next is the marriage ceremony of Bugkalot, Ilongot. Marriage is the Ilongot tribes and characterized with several important practices and traditions. These include to bachelor successful engaging rather and headhunt courtship, which includes casual field labor, gift giving, and sex. Formal discussion among the couples. Parents are followed after this before the actual marriage ceremony takes place. Marriage is a union between a man and woman. In Ilongot tribes, meron silang ilang importanteng paniniwala. It is customary gift, or we call it manangi. We call it manangi or manhikan. Then bago magpakasal, the husband must give gift para sa bride. Sa ibang culture, tinatawag itong bridewell. And after the wedding, mangyayari na ang pinakahihintay ng mag-asawa. They will make love. Next is Bugkalot death rituals. The death and burial of a person in a community affair, relatives and friends offer help to the relatives of the dead person. Dead person in the form of money and service. Friends and relatives attend the wake and offer prayers for the dead man. So, during the wake, the family refrains from bathing and sweeping the floor for the fear that another person will. Gaya sa atin, kapag may namatay na relatives, friends or relatives will give money or service. Tinatawag ito sa atin na abuloy. Ito ay para sa pamilya ng namatayan. And after the burial, they must clean the floor dahil baka may mamatay. Then during the funeral, and relatives nila ang magbubuhat ng bangkay. Kabaong pala. And after the burial, they will eat and offer prayer to dead. So yun, thank you and good morning. God bless.
Hello everyone, I am Brian De La Cruz and I will discuss the material culture of Agta Aetas. Material culture is the aspect of social reality grounded in the objects and architecture that surrounds people. It includes the usage, consumption, creation, trade of object as well as behaviors, norms, and rituals that the object create or take part in. Some scholars also include sound, smell, and events, while some even consider language and media as a part of it. Examples are tools, weapons, utensils, machine, ornaments, art buildings, monuments, written records, religious images, clothing, and any other ponderable objects. These days, the Aetas have many outside influences on their traditional culture and lifestyle. One of the examples is, as per their clothing, they wear plain and simple attire. The young women wear wrap around skirts, elder women wear bark clothes, while the elder men wear loin clothes. The old women of the Agta wear a bark cloth strip which passes between the legs and is attached to a string around the waist. Most men scar their bodies using various designs that have been passed down to them by their ancestors. Today, most Agtas have abandoned their tribal attire for civilized clothes. The Aeta are nomadic and they are able to build temporary houses or shelters made of sticks, driven to the ground and covered with a palm of banana leaves. The more modernized Aetas have moved to villages and areas of cleared mountains. They live in houses made of bamboo and cogon grass. Although a traditional form of visual art is body scarification, cutting, and scarification have been around for centuries. It originated in several African and indigenous Australian cultures and often communicated elements of their culture system and religious belief. Scarification is the art of creating designs in the body through the use of scar tissue. The Aetas intentionally wound the skin on their back, arms, breasts, legs, hands, scalps, and abdomen, and then they irritate the wounds with fire, lime, and other means to form scars. Traditional Aetas are skilled in weaving and plaiting. Weaving is a method of textile production in which two distinct sets of yarns or threads are interlaced at right angles to form a fabric or cloth. Plating is a surface covering in which a metal is deposited on a conductive surface. For example, women exclusively weave windows and mats. Only men make armlets. They also produce raincoats made of palm leaves whose bases surround the neck of the wearer and whose topmost part is spread like a fan all around the body. The Aeta generally use ornaments typical of the people living in substances economies. Flowers and leaves are used as earplugs for certain occasions. Girdles, necklace, and neckbands of braided rattan incorporated with wild pig brittles are frequently worn. This armlet is a band or a bracelet worn around the upper part of a person's arm, and leglets, an ornamental band or ring for the leg, were worn for superstitious reasons. These are usually made of finely woven strands from bihoko, which they sell tourists coming in their land. Aeta communities use different tools in their hunting and gathering activities. Traditional tools include straps, knives, and bow and arrow, with different types of arrow points for specialized purposes. Most Aetas are trained for hunting and gathering at age 15, including Aeta women. According to one study, about 85% of Philippine Aeta women hunt, and they hunt the same quarry as men. Aeta women hunt in groups and with dogs, and have a 31 success rate as opposed to 7% for men. Their rate are even better when they combine forces with men. Mixed hunting groups have a full 41% success rate among the Aeta. And that's all for the material culture of Agta Aetas. Now let's move on to the next topic. Thank you.
So, next naman po is yung sa Bugkalot or Ilongot. So, accessories din po to. So, these are red hornbill earrings. Being able to wear those earrings is being able to show your masculinity. The beheading of another human is being in itself an expression of power, and not able to wear beautiful earrings on visit and invitation is a problem. So itong sinasabing beautiful earrings is yung red hornbill earrings, which show your masculinity, and yung mga tao po sa Bugkalot or Ilongot group, once na mayroon po silang suot na ganito is nagpapahiwatig po nito na naka-experience na po silang magpugot ng ulo ng tao, kahit na nagpupugot po sila ng ulo kahit na kagrupo po nila. So once na meron na po silang suot na red hornbill earrings, ito na po yung pinaka-peak na achievement ng mga Ilongot group, mga Ilongot men's. Yun na po yung pinaka-peak na achievement nila, kasi naipakita na po nila na tunay sila lalaki, yung kanilang kagisigan, yun pong ipinapahiwatig ng red hornbill earrings. So meron din po silang specific na weapon, which is yung headhunting knife. Yun po. Bolo and bow and arrow are usually used for hunting for food in an ethnic group, but for Ilongot group, there is a specific weapon used for beheading person and is called headhunting knife. So ito nga po yung specific na weapon na ginagamit sa pagpupugot ng ulo ng mga Ilongot men's, usually na ginagamit sa headhunting. Ito po yung weapon na ginagamit po nila. So next naman po is yung this gorgeous hornbill headdress is called panglaw and is presented on a custom metal stand. There are probably less than a dozen of this existent of this period, which such quality traditional construction. It is made of the skull of the scarlet hornbill bird, ingeniously attached to a thin bent wicker structure forming a headband. The eyes are plugged with mother of pearl and secured with red strings. So, ito nga po ay isang klase ng headband na similar lang din po sa red hornbill earrings. So, pinapahiwatig din po nito ay ang strength, masculinity ng isang tao. And usually po ito ay ginagamit sa mga occasions. Sa mga kasal po, ito po yung ginagamit. So usually po ginagamit po itong tong panglaw sa mga kasal po. So kasi sa Ilongot group, pag may gusto ka pong pakasalan na babae sa grupo po nila, is may tradisyon po sila na kailangan magdala ng ulo ng tao sa pamilya ng babae, dahil pag nagawa mo ito, napatunayan mong isa kang tunay na lalaki at kaya mong protektahan ang babaeng iyong pakakasalan. So, yun po yung meaning din po, na if ever na makakasuot ng isang men ng Bugkalot group ng headdress na panglaw. So, next naman po, this is an abort-task armlet Ilongot craftsmen constructed like this armlet using boar's tusk and brass and cordage findings. 3 flat brass pieces wrapped around each boar's tusk at either end and in the center, and are attached to the tusk with brass wire. The narrow ends of tusks are connected by brass wire, and the wider ends with woven cordage ornamented with the red cotton. So ito naman pong specific na accessories ng mga ilongot or bugkalot. Ito po yung armlet na sinusuot ng mga tao, mga kalalakihan sa Ilongot group if ever na hindi pa po sila nakakapagbehead ng tao. So ito po yung pinaka-common. But still, nagpapahiwatig pa rin po ito ng masculinity at katatagan ng isang lalaki if ever na meron pong silang suot na ganitong klase ng armlet. So yun lamang po sa material culture ng Agta or Aeta, and dumako naman po tayo sa susunod na topic which is nga po yung social organization. Yun lamang po. Thank you po.
Good afternoon or good morning to everyone. I'm Maria Kimberly Nicole Di Soriano, and I'm gonna reporting the social organization of Aetas. So, who are the Aetas? Aetas are the hunting and gathering indigenous people. They are known also as negritos, and which came from the Spanish term negrito, which means little black ones. Here in the Philippines, they also use the term kulot to identify indigenous people na Aetas, and unat for the non-Aetas. They call unat for the non-Aetas. So, social organization. Social organization within society, the system of relationship between individuals and organization with respect to the division of labor and the functional arrangement of mutual obligations. So, Aeta Magbukon. Aeta Magbukon can be found or they live in Manila Bay or South China Fin and the forest cover of Mount Maribels in the Philippines, southern tip of the Bataan Peninsula. So, according to the shifting of the Aeta Magbukon, the word Magbukon came from the word bukod or magbukod, which means into their language is to separate from. Kasi the Aeta Magbukon is very passionate about their identity. They don't want to be mistaken as the other. They don't want to be mistaken as ibang Aeta groups or sa ibang non-Aetas. So, the Aeta Magbukon social organization revolves around nuclear family. Nuclear family is the basic social unit of the community. So, when we say nuclear family, it consists of mother and father and their children living in the same roof. So, yung social organization nila, it revolves in nuclear family. They are interdependent to other nuclear family. And kinship is bilateral in the Philippines. That means to say that they have both social obligation to their mother and to their father. And among the siblings, generationally, it is structured by age and descent of order. So, kinship can define order, can express relationship, can define rights, obligation, and it can also create order and harmony. But at the same time, it can create a conflict when the expectation surrounding kinship is not imposed. So, here the next one is Bian Barangay has 21 nuclear family of Aeta Magbukong. It consists of family grouping which is Maingat clan. So, the Bian Barangay, the Mariveles municipality has 80 barangays, and one of them is Bian Barangay. Bian Barangay is it has small population of people, but the land is the land area is very malawak yung land area niya. So, in the Bayan Barangay, NGO, doon nila binuild yung bayan-bayanan ng Aeta Magbukon. So, then the Aeta Magbukon at the Bayan Barangay has 21 nuclear family, but it consists a singly family grouping because 17 of nuclear family belong to the Maingat clan, while the remaining 4 does not belong to Maingat clan, but they do not belong to the Maingat clan, but they are closely associated with Maingat clan, and also their chieftain is from Maingat clan. So they have their healers, which they call Kaugun, and also they have a council of elders. The council of elders is their traditional decision-making body, and they serve as the spiritual advisor and cultural advisor of the community. And they are also the one who create solution for the intertribal conflicts together with the tribal council. So, tribal council. So, who are belong to the tribal councils? Tribal council are the elected Aetas. It composed of chieftain, 2 kagawad, secretary, treasurer, and auditor. They the one who represent their Aeta Magbukon in the municipal council, and they are also the one who implement and formulate specific decrees in the Aeta Magbukon or in their community. And also at the same time, their aim is to progress the self-governance of Aeta Magbukon. At the same time, to ensure they also ensure the participation of Aeta Magbukon in the national affairs, etc. And many more. So that was the social organization, and we have here next the Aeta or Agay. In the Cagayan at western side of Sierra Madre, they call indigenous people there Aeta or Agay. So, Aeta or Agay, they do not believe one has control over another person in terms of their governance, because they believe that the power should be exercised for the well-being of the community, for the well-being of their community. They respect each other. They respect each other because they have this belief that it is the key for the peaceful community, and also the personal problem is considered as community problems, because they know that they need each other, especially when there are enemies. They cannot face enemies when they are divided. So, they have also elders which they respect in terms of decision-making platforms. So, they respect the elders, but hindi nangangahulugan na hindi sila pwedeng makapagbigay ng decision. They can not participate in decision making, lalong-lalo na kung para naman yun sa community nila. They also have women healers. So, the women heals also the non-Aetas. Non-Aetas, or they also heal non-Aetas. The Aetas, the way of panggagamot ng Aetas is they use medical plants, and guided by the begging spirit. And also, the last aid, they don't have gender inequality. They don't have gender inequality because they believe that all of them has a responsibility or obligation to work for for the benefit of their family or for the for the for the benefit of their family or community. So thank you for listening to report. That was my report on social organization.
So, hello guys, I am Mark Joseph Bukao and I will be discuss the social organization of the Bugkalot or Ilongot. But before we discuss the social organization, the Bugkalot or Ilongot lives in southern Sierra Madre and Caramaro Mountains on the east side of Luzon. That's why the Bugkalot or Ilongot sustain themselves through hunting and horticulture. So the social organization of the Bugkalot or Ilongot are also generally relied upon by the community members as leaders or emerging leaders in the pursuit of Bugkalot community concerns. Pogong shall be redressing mechanism in settling conflicts, whether it concerns land dispute, leadership conflicts resolution, feuds, marriage, and many others. So, the social organization of Bugkalot or Ilongot is also the same on Aetas. Kasi, nag-hunting sila, nagpa-farm sila, sinusustain nila yung hanap buhay nila sa pagtatanim ng mais, ng root crops. But the difference between the two organization or the two community is ang Bugkalot or Ilongot is meron silang samahan or meron silang mga pinuno na nagsisilbing guide or nagsisilbing leaders na bahala sa mga concerns ng buong community. That's why mas organize yung community ng Bugkalot or Ilongot. So that's all about the social organization of Bugkalot or Ilongot. Now, the next topic is history events of Aetas and Bugkalot or Ilongot.
Good day again, everyone. I am Mark I-BSHM-E Kayap. I forgot to introduce myself earlier. And I am here to discuss to you about the history events regarding the Aetas and the Bugkalots. Let's start first with the Aetas. According to historians, the Aetas, also known as Agtas, are Australo-Melanesians. Historical accounts suggest that they are of the same group as the Aborigines in Australia and Melanesians of Solomon Islands. So guys, yung Aborigines and yung Melanesians, din sila, indigenous people din sila, just located in Australia and Solomon Islands, okay? While they closely resemble physical characteristics such as curly hair and dark-colored skin, it is not clear as to how they arrived in the Philippines. Hindi daw malinaw kung paano sila nakatapak sa Pilipinas. Kasi 'di ba, pa yun, wala pang mga modern bangka or parang transportation to go point to point, 'di ba? So, we have here the Bering Land Bridge theory kung paano sila nakapunta sa Pilipinas. Most historians point to the Bering Land Bridge theory to explain the history of Aetas. This theory suggests that the Aetas reached the Philippines because of the land bridges of narrow strait that connected all land masses in the world. So, according sa theory na to, yung mga hunters at that time, tumawid sila sa mga land bridges na to. So, nakapunta sila sa mga iba't ibang lugar, including Philippines. And then, nung time daw na yun is, yung mga land bridges na to is nawala. Nag-disappear. Siguro, yung mga land bridges na yun is parang composed ng ice and then natunaw and hindi na sila nakabalik. Ganun. So, they are trapped to the place that they went. So, yung mga Aetas, nung mga natrap sila dito sa Pinas, kahit hindi naman nila ginusto, they have no choice. but to live here in the Philippines, and that's where the Aetas spread their races here in the Philippines. That's according to the Bering language theory. So, ayun siya. And also, most Aetas practice monotheism and are animists. So, ano nga ba yung monotheism and are animists? Yung monotheism means meron lang silang iisang Diyosa or Diyos or Diyos-Diyosan, ganun. And also yung mga animist is yung naniniwala sila sa paligid nila. Like for example, di ba yung mga ano natin, lola't lolo natin before, naniniwala sila sa puno na to, may ano dyan, ganyan, may spirit dyan, huwag kang magbubunot dyan or huwag mong puputulin yung puno na yan kasi baka mamaya ma-curse ka, ganun. So, ayun siya. They worship a supreme being and at the same time also believe in environmental spirits. So, yun. They believe that various places in our environment are being governed by both good and evil spirits. So, ayun siya. Meron yung mga mababait na spirits tsaka may mga masasama din daw. And that's all for the Aetats. Let's go to the Bugkalots or Ilongots. So, the Bugkalots, commonly referred to as Ilongot, especially in older studies, but nowadays the name Bugkalot is preferred in modern ethnic research. They were formerly headhunters. The Bugkalots tend to inhabit areas close to rivers as they provide a food source and a means for transportation. Their native language is the Ilongot language, currently spoken by about 50,000 people. They also speak the Ilocano language. Ang dami nila, no? So, yung ano daw, they are commonly referred to as Ilongot. Tingin nyo bakit? Kasi, when they, kapag natatawag silang Bugkalot, parang nakakababa ng self-confidence daw nila. And, mostly, nabubuli sila. Kaya, nireferred na lang nila yung matawag silang Ilongot. Pero, I'll tell you the reason kung bakit naging official na Bugkalot later on. So, ayun nga, meron din isang study in Ivan Salva's study in 1980 of the Bugkalots. She described gender differences related to the positive cultural value placed on adventure, travel, and knowledge of the external world. So, anong meaning nun? Meron daw pagkakaiba sa gender, parang gender inequality. Kapag mas madami kang experience on the outside world, mas angat ka. So, ayun. Bugkalot men, more often than women, visited distant places. They acquired knowledge of the outside world, amassed experience there, and returned to share their knowledge, adventures, and feelings in a public oratory in order to pass on their knowledge to others. So, yung mga Bugkalot men, syempre, 'di ba? Yung mga lalaki sila yung mga malalakas, matitigas, may mga means na makapag-travel ng malalayo kasi mas malakas yung stamina nila, 'di ba, kaysa sa mga babae. So, itong mga lalaking Bugkalot na 'to, ano daw sila, para sila nag-i-explore, nag-gather sila ng mga knowledge outside sa nila, comfort zone, outside sa area nila. And kapag balik nila, sinashare nila yung experiences nila kung ano yung mga naranasan nila outside their comfort zone sa area nila. And ayun, pinapass on nila yung mga knowledge na yun sa public oratory or parang yung nag-gathering sila. Parang alam niyo yung sa bonfire, ganon. Nag-gather sila and kinukwento nila, may parang kanya-kanyang speech, ganon. And then, ayun siya, kaya the Bugkalot men receive acclaim as a result of their experiences because they lack external experience on which to base knowledge and expression. Bugkalot women had inferior prestige. So, dun na nagkaroon yung gender equality. Mas angat yung Bugkalot men kaysa sa Bugkalot women because of the lack of experience. And the Bugkalot, like any other people, have an innate pride in their unique culture. Outsiders and lowlanders often wonder why they unshamedly refer to them as such. They call their group and language Bugkalot from the root word kalot, meaning interweave or interwoven. Ang meaning ng interwoven or interweave is yung nakahabi siya. Nakahabi. Their lifestyle is generally interwoven, as can be seen in the way they build their houses, which must be interwoven with rattan. Their costumes and native attire must also be interwoven with many colorful decorations. Their artifacts, too, are traditionally interwoven with rattan or bamboo and other endemic natural materials like feathers, animal fur, etc. So, ayun siya. Doon nanggaling yung name na Bugkalot, from the root word kalot or interweave or nakahabi. And ito na siya, yung sinasabi ko kanina, kung bakit naging official Bugkalot, bakit hindi Ilongot. So, the original and true tribal name Bugkalot was declared as their official name when the overall organization of the Bugkalot clans, Bugkalot Confederation, was organized in 1967. Headed by their former chieftain, Molina Salvador, their elders agreed to use the name that comes from them. So, yung Bugkalot na name, nanggaling mismo sa kanila. And yung Ilongot is not from them, hindi galing sa kanila. Their chieftain Molina said, "Ma Bugkalot siyay, ma binangonan si," meaning Bugkalot is a name from them. Bugkalot is a name from us and to which we have awakened. Doon na sila namulat sa pangalang Bugkalot. The term Ilongot came around in the first half of 18th century and is still being used up to this time. Due to the appropriateness of its meaning, it is still being used to call them as it is already recorded in many documents, internet, and even in their certificate of ancestral domain title, where they are defined as Bugkalot or Ilongot for legal purposes. So, ayun siya. And also, yung mga Bugkalot, nalaman din nila lately na they found out that they have some similarities to the peoples of the Bible. They are called by their first names and identified by using the names of their fathers and forefathers. For example, sa Bible, di ba, si Isaac, tatay niya si Abraham. So, tinatawag si Isaac like parang Isaac, the son of Abraham. Parang ganun din daw sa mga Bugkalot. And, kunwari ako, isa akong Bugkalot. My name is Mark and my father's name is Marvin. So, kapag kinikwento ko sa iba, ang sabihin sa akin, Mark, the son of Marvin. Parang ganun siya. Parang, similarities daw nila sa Bible yun. And also, Bugkalots are the same as Aetas. They are also animists. And, ayun, madami silang Diyos. Sa pagkakaiba nila sa Aetas, monotheism lang yung mga Aetas, isa lang yung Diyos nila. And sa Bugkalot naman, they are animist as well as madami silang Diyos. So, I have here the traditionally and animistic people with different names for their gods, the Bugkalots. In the field, meron silang tinatawag na Diyos na Ayoma, God in the field. And yung God in the water, Pingit. And also the God in the ground, Indigen, and the God in the forest, Ilongot. And madami pang iba. But notably, there is a higher being that they respect the most. They call him Binangonan. Ang pinakamataas nila, yung supreme being nila, called Binangonan, existed before they came into being. Binangonan is the one that has no beginning. The God whom they believe is their creator. Yun daw yung pinaniniwalaan nilang pinanggalingan nila, yung mga Bugkalot, si Binangonan. So that's all for the history events. We will go and proceed to the next reporter that will talk about the issues between the Ilongot and the Aetas.
Issues confronting the Aetas. First, the Aetas' relocation and their struggle for survival. The relocation of the Aetas has been accidental because if Mount Pinatubo had not erupted, then they might still be settling on the slopes of the volcano. Nevertheless, the evacuation of the Aetas during the eruption had been difficult. Some of them refused to leave and stayed in their caves and huts because they did not want to leave their lands. They believed that Aponamolyari, their god, was punishing them for not being protective of their environment, and they must accept this punishment. This scenario had been the problem of the people member of non-government organization and social workers, alike working to save the Aeta inhabitant of Mount Pinatubo. They don't understand why the Aetas refused to leave their homes. Second is the dilemmas encountered by Aeta students in State University in Central Luzon, Philippines. Tribal people like the Aetas do not give much importance to formal education since their primarily concern is on their basic needs such as food, but as years pass by, their importance of formal education has increased due to technological advancement and the challenges of the industrial era. Indigenous communities in the Philippines, however, have been advocating for almost 5 decades for an education that is sensitive to and reflective of their cultural context, aspiration, and concerns. A number of dilemmas and issues confronting the Aeta students in the university. First, some of them don't have the self-confidence. Madalas, nahihiya sila sa mga kapwa nila estudyante na makihalubilo, kaya nagiging tahimik na lamang sila sa kanilang klase. And they also think that the other students don't like to be friends with them. Sinasabi din nila na parang mahirap pakisamahan ang ibang tao dahil tingin sa mga Aeta ay mahihina. The second issue is the academic pressure. Sinasabi nila na minsan hindi nila maintindihan yung lesson, especially when lectured in high-sounding English. Sometimes they also lose their focus but still strive to understand the lessons, especially the difficult ones. College teaching is far different from high school. That's why they still adjust. Verbal bullying came among the dilemmas being confronted by the IP students. They feel bad about it but still pinapabayaan na lang nila ang mga ito and they focus on their goal na makakapagtapos din sila. IP learners experience discrimination in and outside the school. They are often scolded because they did not know how to speak and use respectful words in their second language. Learners had to ignore belittling stares and conversations of people around them. Issues confronting the Bugkalots. First, the encroachment of settlers and the privatization of land. Traditional Bugkalot subsistence is based on shifting cultivation and hunting, supplemented by some fishing and gathering. Rice is the main crop and carries important social values, while sweet potato, cassava, tobacco, bananas, sugarcane, and a variety of vegetables are the major subsidiary crops. The usual sexual division of labor is that men hunt, fish, forage, and clear first-year Swedens, while women do most of the routine gardening. Neither irrigation nor domestic animals are used in cultivation. Unlike shifting cultivators in many parts of the Philippines, the Bugkalot have never entered into symbiotic relationship or death bondage with wet rice farmers in nearby lowland. The general principle claiming land rights among the Bugkalot is to be the first to occupy the land by clearing it through the slash and burn method. Before the intrusion of settlers into Bugkalot territory, land was in abundant supply and the Bugkalot did not organize among themselves exclusive ownership right to land. As with many shifting cultivators in the Philippine uplands, during the period of cultivation, the land and its produce were considered private, but once the land was left, follow it gradually because communal property again free other members at the same bestan, the largest unit of social organization or category of affiliation among the Bugkalot, to cultivate. The well-known bounty of Sierra Madre and the availability of patches and land in the Mount Range were attractive to the people of Cordillera. Although only a few were entitled to be resettled with government support, many of the disenfranchised migrated with the others on their own. Because of the encroachment of settlers, the Bugkalot started to claim to previous cleared areas and the parcel their common land into individual shares as an attempt to resist their settlers more efficient. However, this incipient notion of private land ownership did not provide an efficient defense mechanism. In fact, it might even have facilitated the loss of land to subsequent settlers because the Bugkalot did not value land or have a clear idea of its worth. They readily gave away transacts of land in exchange of radios, guns, dogs, blankets, salt, sugar, cloths, cooking utensils, and etc. Second issue is the land grabbing among the Bugkalot themselves. In the late 1970s and early 1980s, the traditional pattern of communal land tenure began to change when lowlanders and other indigenous migrants entered Gingin. The Bugkalot could not hope to hold uncultivated lands against the increasing number of settlers and began to designate particular plots as private property that individual owners could decide to what to do with it. Among the Bugkalot themselves, however, access to land was still fairly easy and was not concerned that led to social conflict. When about the half population moved from Lipuga and Palaway back to Gingin in the late 1970s and early 1980s, they obtained land simply by taking to their relatives choosing a site where they wanted to open Oma. Because the returnees had lived in the era before the invasion of Japanese soldiers made them flee in fear. Kinship ties and historical connections to the place entitled them to open land as they saw fit. Although the Bugkalot started to develop the notion of private ownership of land was not yet commoditized, land borrowing among the Bugkalot was free of charge, and several of earliest settlers married local women and obtained a final ties with the Bugkalot. They were obliged to share goods as they bought them from the lowland, as kinship norms dictated, but this was not payment for land. The commoditization of land happened later, at the turn of century, when the advance of the full-fledged capitalist market economy penetrated Gingin. As several Igorot who live in the area between Gayan and Gingin before the late 1990s, new settlers could acquire land with money. This was also the period during the commercial vegetable gardening spread of the area, when land became the easiest way to obtain cash. Land grabbing among the Bugkalot themselves began to occur. Although land grabbing among the Bugkalot must be understood in the context of the expansion of capitalism and the commoditization of land, Bugkalot themselves do not prioritize utilitarian reason for economic needs in perceiving and explaining land disputes. Barangay officials have made several attempts to resolve social conflicts over land between Yamu people and Topdek's family. Besides acting as go-between the two parties, they have also organized 3 public meetings or pugong attending by the whole community. However, a solution or compromise is next is the pugong, oratory, persuasion, and attempt to resolve the land dispute. The word pugong describes at once a public meeting in which opposing parties come together to discuss and resolve their differences, and an elaborate style of speech which is enriched in art, wit, and in direction. Traditional oratorical events typically concern either marrying or killing, head hunting, both of which are occasion for anger. Anger is the product of envy, and envy is created when the ideal of sameness and equality are breached. In pogong, adult men use their knowledge and verbal skill to negotiate anger to achieve balance in social relationship. In this individualistic society, where each man is his own master, pogong provides a focus and context in which it is appropriate to invoke shared norms and public understanding to explain obligation and commitments in terms of social ideas. The first pogong took place in Yamu on June 18, 2006. It was attended by more than 40 people, and most of them are men. Second pogong was held in Barangay Hall, September. That too failed to reach a middle ground between two sides involved the land dispute. The third pogong took place in the barangay hall on January 7, 2007. Barangay Captains Ramon and Bobby opened the meeting stating their sincere wish to solve the problem of the land. Another pogong ended in futility. Compared with the first pogong, there was shift in the rhetoric or discourse. Next is the land titling, capitalism, and disposition. Today, the Bugkalot face competition for land not only for settlers but also from fellow Bugkalot. Land disputes in Gingin cannot be seen simply as the result of conflict between traditional indigenous land tenure and state legislation. Instead, disputes over the land have been concomitant with the emergence of the land market when Gingin was brought into the orbit of capitalism. When Bugkalot started to lay claims to previously cleared areas and parcel their common land into individual shares in an attempt to resist the encroachment of settlers, the advertent consequence was that it facilitated the dispository process. Again, when the Bugkalot began to participate in the production of cash crops and to use their lands as collateral to apply for bank loans, a different form of disposition took place.